Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope that you are all good. In today's video we are going to be doing my December favorites, and I've split this into two parts. So part one is going to be acrylics and part two will be gel polish, so you have to come back in a couple of days if you want to watch the gel polish edition. But let's jump in, take a look at the products I've picked for my December favorites, and then we're going to kind of do like an acrylic nail art compilation. I think I ended up creating 7 designs. So first up, I've got 2 acrylics from Wow. Gold Liquor is a beautiful kind of like a liquid gold, and then Magic Forest is this beautiful pearlescent green. I then picked these chunky Fimo pieces. I really love these for encapsulated nail designs. I love anything iridescent for December, so I had to add in these twinkle star sequins. Of course, for December we need snowflakes too. Now although these ones are quite large, they are very thin when it comes to encapsulating. Of course, Christmas, December, we have to have some reds, so I picked out these 2 red glitters. The red diamond cluster from Smileys is really pretty, and then this chunky candy cane one. This particular one you might have seen in a recent acrylic video I did, but I absolutely loved it, so I had to include it in today's. I then grabbed these gingerbread sequins. Again, like the snowflakes, they're really easy to encapsulate in acrylic. For my core colours, I went for Fantasy and Sassy because I kind of want to go for more nude tones. Back to glitters, we've got this chunky Silent Night glitter mix. Look at the holographic vibes in this one. Now this is another favourite. When I first got this, I used it in so many Christmas designs. It is so cute if you want to go for a green and pink look. We can't have December without gold either, so I've got Champagne Spritz and then a couple of acrylics from Glitterama, which is now called Emma Louise Nail Systems. So Rosie Lee is a gorgeous kind of like a bronzy rose gold pink, and then we've got 2 acrylic glitter mixes. Now these are great for layering up nail designs or keeping your acrylic designs quite simple. And then we have the beautiful Simply Red. I couldn't do Christmas nails without this. Now if you want to see what is in the December box, come back in a couple of days, but for now let's jump in and create some Christmas or December acrylic nail designs. Starting off on the first one, I'm going to do a thin layer of the Magic Forest. Now I'm going to just do this thin because I know we're going to be coming over the top with some glitters and some of those chunky gingerbread men sequin shapes. So I want to keep my base color nice and thin so that I can layer up my glitters without worrying about getting a bulky nail. Now when you're doing this is why pigmented acrylic colors work best. As you can see, this color is super pigmented, so I can apply a really thin layer without having to worry about building up the product to get the opacity to come through. In one thin layer, although I worked with 3 beads, they were quite small, I've just got a thin wash of acrylic down, and we've got that beautiful gorgeous green coming through. I'm then going to come in with the Shooting Stars acrylic glitter mix from Emma Louise Nail Systems. Now I love a glitter that's already pre-mixed with acrylic. It just makes application so easy, especially if you're doing things like glitter fades, or if you're working in a salon, or if you're pushed for time. It just speeds up the whole application. So I've just put a thin wash of this down at the cuticle area, and I'm fading it down towards the tip of the nail. Then I am going to layer this up with my chunky glitter. So I went for the peppermint frosting one. I felt as though this just paired beautifully with the Magic Forest acrylic underneath. And then I wanted some more of those iridescent diamonds coming through from the Shooting Star acrylic mix, so I do end up layering on a little bit more of that. But when I'm layering these up, I'm keeping everything nice and thin. I'm only picking up small beads of acrylic when I'm going in with that raw glitter, and then just a wash of this one over the top, just so that we're not adding any additional bulk. Although I am doing this down in the apex area, so it does allow us a bit of kind of room to encapsulate and build up some structure. I'm then going to press down 2 of these little gingerbread men, and I really loved how they looked. The green and the gold kind of worked really nicely together. So I'm placing these down with a little bit of clear acrylic, and then I do wash some more clear acrylic over the top just to hold them in place so that they set in place and then they won't move around when it comes to encapsulating. I'm going to pop this aside to dry before encapsulating. So we're going to move on to the second design. Now I really wanted to include just a classic red and nude ombre. Now I know a red ombre can be quite hard to do, especially if, like myself, you've not had much acrylic practice lately. So I made it a little bit easier by opting for my nude acrylic to have a shimmer in it. If you're struggling with any kind of ombre, pick a nude that has a shimmer or a glitter in it, and it just makes it a whole lot easier. So we're coming in with the Emma Louise Simply Red at the tip of the nail. So I went in with quite small beads so I can keep this nice and thin. This way, if I need to come in and correct the color, so if my ombre didn't go correctly, I can apply a little bit more red if it's needed. Now I'm blending this back into that nail bed area, and then I did wait for it to fully dry before coming in with my nude. This is because it's a very pigmented color, so if you come in with your nude whilst the red is still wet, you're going to end up pulling it around and the colors are going to start smooshing together, so you're not going to get a nice clean ombre. So I waited for it to dry, then I come in with a small bead of sassy, placed it down at that blend area just to kind of soften where the red stops. Then I'm going to come in with my cuticle bead, press this into place at the cuticle area, and then just pull this over the previous bead of acrylic, kind of starting to build up that nail bed area, but then also using some of this acrylic to blend it down to start working on creating a nice blend between the two colors. Now this probably could have been a little bit more of a softer blend, but I actually really liked how it turned out, so I was quite happy with it. And I really loved how the gold shimmers in Sassy come over the red. It just gives all the Christmas vibes. Now I am going to come in with another small bead just to build up the color a little bit more, just to make sure I'm happy with how it has blended over. This is a core color, so you could build up the apex area with this color and then just come in and encapsulate from your blend down with your clear acrylic. Now I didn't leave any encapsulation in this video because it was quite a long video just doing all of the acrylic designs, but in previous videos I've got lots showing how I would encapsulate. You could even add some glitters over that ombre if you wanted to make it look a little bit less simple. On to the third nail, I'm going to come in with Fantasy at the cuticle area. Now this is one of my favorite core colors from CJP. It's so buttery and dreamy to work with, and it's quite opaque, but you can make it a little bit more sheer if you want to by using it a little bit wetter. So if you're doing things like ombres, it is beautiful for that. Now I've blended it down. I just wanted a touch of this color down at that cuticle area because we're kind of going to swoosh a marble over the top and then come in with some glitter. So for my marble, I'm picking up medium to wet beads of acrylic, placing them down on the nail, and then whilst they're still wet, swooshing my brush through them. Now I did add a white acrylic in here. This wasn't included in the favorites box, but I feel as though white is kind of like an essential anyway. I should have maybe included it in the box, but I thought I would mention that. I just felt as though a white really helped in this design. I kind of wanted to go for a bit of like an elf vibe, so I felt like it just needed some white acrylic. I did also add in a little bit of clear. I always find adding in a clear helps swoosh through the marble. I did give this just a little bit of time to set so that I wouldn't move the marble around too much when I was placing my acrylics down, but I do accidentally dig in to the Fantasy acrylic, and this is why I personally find acrylics harder to do in the colder weather, just because it sets so much slower. So you'll see in a minute I go to nudge one of the glitters, this one, and then I just smoosh right into the acrylic just because it needed that little bit longer to set. Now when you're working on yourself or a client, you can kind of switch between nails, so it makes it that little bit easier than working on a one tip design. But luckily I was able to fix it up, and I really loved how these two glitters worked together. So that nail gave me inspiration to do a full marble nail, because going into this I picked out my favorite products for December, but I had no idea, no inspiration inspiration for designs, I kind of just sat at my desk, laid all the acrylics out or the products out and just played around. But when I did that swoosh marble, it really made me want to do a full marble nail. So that's what we're going to do on this one. I went in with the Simply Red and the gold liquor down at the cuticle area. I do this just to get a neat cuticle area without having to take my marble right up to that cuticle, because this can sometimes be quite tricky when you're working on a real nail. But then same as before, I'm just picking up wet beads of acrylic and swooshing through them to create this gorgeous marble effect. I love an acrylic marble. I love how no two marbles will look the same, and you can really play around with different acrylic colors and just create gorgeous effects. I always find a minimum of 3 colors works best, but you could go in with as many as you wanted and make the nail look as colorful as you wanted. Now I went in with my colors quite thin, so I did come over the top down at that sort of nail bed and cuticle area with a little bit more marble effect going on, just because I wasn't 100% happy with how it was looking. But I am just doing this with small beads of acrylic so that we're not building up too much bulk, but it helped fix up that area. Now I did really love how this marble looked without any glitter, because that gold liquor has a beautiful shimmery effect to it. It kind of adds something special to it anyway. But I thought, let's take this one up a notch. Let's go in and add in some red glitter. So I went for the red diamond cluster mix from Smiley's, and I love this one because it's got the fine red glitter in there, but then there are some chunky, well, they're not that chunky, they are quite small, but some stars and diamonds, so they really add something extra to the nail. And I'm just picking this up using small beads of clear acrylic. I didn't want to cover up too much of the marble, so I kind of just tried to follow the pattern of the marble and the way it was flowing through. And then we're going to move on to the next nail. This nail had to be my favorite. I love an iridescent nail, and this one I just felt as though it turned out beautifully. So I'm coming in again with Fantasy down at that cuticle area. And I do feel as though pairing a lighter pink or nude with iridescent colours just works beautifully. So I'm fading this out, and I did originally want to do a glass tip on this nail, but these tips have numbers on the bottom of them, and I felt as though it would show through and ruin the look. So I didn't go for a glass tip. I kind of went for more of a glitter glass tip, but this would look beautiful with a full glass tip, I feel. But I'm coming in with the Shooting Star glitter mix to begin with, and kind of this is where I decided it needs to have some more glitter going down towards the tip of the nail to cover up that number. As you see before, I just sort of swooshed it down, and I was going to leave the very tip clear, but that number just would have bugged me. So I'm blending this glitter across the entire top of the nail, and then I'm going to come in with the Silent Night glitter mix. So this one's brilliant because it's so holographic, but then it has these little moons and little stars in there. It's just such a stunning glitter mix, and I love mixing holographic with iridescent. I feel as though it just looks really pretty, especially if it's a silver mix. Then whilst that acrylic and glitter is still wet, I'm just tapping on some of these twinkle stars, just tapping them in to that wet acrylic without adding any extra, because they're going to hold in place easily anyway. But then I did pop a little swoosh of wet acrylic over, and then I'm placing down my snowflakes, layering it all up. It doesn't look as though it pops at the moment, but once you encapsulate this and top coat, it looked absolutely stunning. You will see further along in the video I do show all of the top coating, but I loved it. I loved this nail. I would happily wear a full set of this, maybe with some crystals, some stamping or hand painting over the top. It would be my kind of nails. Anyway, on to the next nail. I wanted to do a ombre between Simply Red and Magic Forest, and then layer on some glitters over the top. So I'm starting off with Simply Red at the tip of the nail, blended it back slightly, and then I'm just walking this bead down towards the very tip of the nail, getting a nice thin but even layer over the top, so we get the full opacity from the red. But I'm trying to keep this nice and thin so that I can perfect the ombre if I need to, but also come in and add my glitters. I did decide to come in with another small bead just to wash it back, mainly so that I could get a softer fade between the red. and what would be the nail bed area. Again, leave this to completely set before you come in with your next color. Then come in with just a small bead to start creating your blend. Now, as you can see, Magic Forest is very, very pigmented. It's kind of got a pearlescent effect. So I went in small, swooshed it forward and then backward, and then kind of just left it and went in with my next bead of acrylic. And I'm working with really small beads just so that I can kind of get a neat ombre but without having to add too much bulk. But also personally, I find the Wow Bow powders work better with more of a painting motion rather than a building motion. Depending on the acrylic brand, they all work slightly differently, and then depending on how you work as well. Some people prefer a building technique, some people prefer a painting technique, so do whatever works best for you. For this design, this was what worked best for me. This is also why I kept the design quite thin, so I could come in with another small bead there at the tip of the nail to help clean up the very tip, because the green, the pearlescent effect in it did overtake the red a little bit. So I'm just blending some more red back and kind of just, although I'm covering up some of this blend with glitter, I still wanted to try and get it as perfect as I could, and I was fairly happy with how it turned out. But we are then going to come over the top with champagne spritz to begin with, and I'm kind of just going to go for that classic swoosh across the nail, starting in the center, going up towards the cuticle area, and then just bringing this down towards the tip of the nail. I really, really love a gold, like a white gold glitter mix. I feel as though this is really, really pretty. And then I decided on this nail I would add in some of those little Fimo pieces, so I went for a peppermint and a candy cane, and I feel as though this kind of just gave classic children Christmas vibes. I really love traditional Christmas looks like dark greens and reds, but I felt as though this one was really cutesy, so I did love how it turned out. On to the next design, I'm going to come in with ruby shoes at the tip of the nail, and this is kind of like a red fine glitter, but rather than being in a clear acrylic base, it's got a kind of hint of red to it, so it's really, really great for more coverage rather than having to come in with a red acrylic underneath. Then I'm coming in with my chunky glitters, so we're going in with the Christmas holly one to begin with, which has got these gorgeous large red hexes and then some little stars, and then I thought this would also look pretty with some iridescent stars as well, so I added in some of those. And whilst it's all still wet, you're able to nudge those acrylics around as much as you want to get them placed how you want. I'm trying to make sure that they're not layered up too much so that it's not too bulky and so that you can see each one. And then I did allow this to set, and then I'm going to ombre the rosy Lee over the top to kind of create that peekaboo effect with the glitter. And I really loved how this turned out. This colour is not one that I would normally reach for in a Christmas set, but I love it. It's got a beautiful gold shimmer to it, and it's just a little bit different to anything else I have. I feel as though it's quite a unique color, and it's really, really pretty. Easy to work with, as you can see. I've just done a thin layer, but look how opaque it is, blending it down, and I felt as though it just worked really nicely with the red glitters but looked different, so I was happy that I did end up including this one. Now off camera I did encapsulate all of those nails in a layer of clear acrylic, filed them, buffed them, all of that jazz. So here's what they looked like once they were freshly filed. We're then going to go in and bring them back to life with top coat, which is one of my favorite steps. So I'm going to come in and use the Kiki London No Wipe top coat, just apply a thin coat of this to the entire nail and then pop this in to cure. Now these gold gingerbread men, the gold kind of washed off of them when I encapsulated them. Now I don't remember this happening when I used them in the past, so it may be because they've been sat in my drawer for ages, or maybe it was just a particular monomer I was using today. So unfortunately they did go a little bit silver looking, but they still looked really pretty in the design. I absolutely loved this one. I feel as though this nail would pair really nicely with the green and red ombre we did. So if you were doing a full set of nails but wanted them to all look differently, those two nails would look beautiful together. This one I really, really loved that hint of gold running through and the sparkles. I found it, I said, you know, when I was doing the nails that the iridescent nail was my absolute favorite, but do let me know in the comments below which was your favorite. I feel as though they were all quite beginner friendly designs, so this was the one that was my favorite. Just just look at those sparkles. I would happily wear a full set of these. This is absolutely beautiful. But yes, let me know in the comments below which one was your favorite. They were, like I said, fairly beginner friendly if you are used to working with coloured acrylics. I'm trying to get back into the swing of it before doing anything too out there, but I had a lot of fun doing these, like just sitting at my desk with the products all over the place and just going in and creating designs. It was really, really fun, kind of therapeutic to do as well. So I do hope you've all enjoyed today's video. If you did, please do leave me a comment, give the video a thumbs up. It really helps boost my channel. Hit that subscription button if you haven't already. I'm fairly close to 10,000 subscribers, I think a couple of hundred off, so it would make my day to hit 10,000. I've been doing YouTube for a couple of years now and it is so fun, and I've met so many lovely people, so thank you to all of you who have subscribed. This was the finished nails, so yeah, I really enjoyed how they turned out. So yeah, thank you so much for spending 20 minutes of your time watching this video if you made it to the end. Lots of love. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.